If you're looking to start with a new sewing hobby and do not have much money, then this is the video for you. In this video, I'm going to talk about sewing, thrifting, and most of all, how to get cheap fabrics and give you some ideas what you can do with that. It's just going to be a simple video with some tips and tricks and what I've learned with many years of thrifting and just a few years of sewing. Because if you're new to sewing, you probably are shocked how expensive it is, because everyone tells you that it is so cheap to make your own clothes, you must save so much money. You realize you spend more money than on a piece that you buy from H&M. I think that's also a stark reminder of how bad fast fashion is, because we all know now it's impossible to get a dress for that cheap. But that's not the point of this video right now. I'm just going to show you my tips and tricks on how to find the right fabric for your project or get inspired by something you find at a thrift store. Okay, the biggest step, number one, a sewing machine. I'm not going to lie, this is going to be a little bit hard. It's not going to be impossible, but it is a little harder, especially nowadays when, you know, for the last few years I feel like sewing has been booming and it has been so popular. So I feel like you have to be really lucky to find a sewing machine at the thrift store. However, I would recommend you to buy one second-hand. We are so conditioned to buy everything new, while I feel like an old sewing machine is so much better than the new ones today. They are so much sturdier, stronger, they have a better motor, engine, however you like to call it, so they can handle thicker fabrics better. This one, she's a beast, and of course, she's beautiful. A very trustworthy machine. I feel like the new ones today, and it goes for everything that you buy nowadays, cameras as well. I have really old film cameras that I feel the same as this. They are really hard to break, they are really strong, they are built to last for years and years and years, and you don't need much. Just buy a simple machine. We don't need all the fancy options, especially if you're a beginner. And all you need is a straight stitch and a zigzag stitch, and you can do everything with that. I mean, the zigzag stitch is for like stretchy fabrics or fraying ends. You can even make buttonholes with a zigzag stitch, so you don't even need a special function for that. Let's say you've got your sewing machine, and of course you need more than just fabric. You'll need a good thing like scissors and supplies like that. I wouldn't necessarily buy at the thrift store, but I would take a look at the other accessories like zippers. You can buy lots and lots of zippers at the thrift store, but also thread. If it's really old, it might not be the best, but brands like Mettler or Gutermann are always very good threads, and I got some from my grandma who passed away last year, and I also thrifted some, and they held up really well. So I would definitely recommend looking at that, because like thread like this can cost you like €4, and most of the time for me when I thrift something, that thread that I have to buy new is the most expensive thing. So I would definitely look into buying something, and you don't necessarily have to have a use for the color right now, but you can always use them later. So definitely look out for those two brands in the thrift store. Other things you can buy as well, bias binding of course, or trimmings, so many things. Of course you don't have to buy everything, but it's sometimes things are just nice to have. Oh, and of course buttons. I almost forgot buttons. You can buy so many buttons at the thrift store, and especially if you see some cool buttons, just buy them. You can always use them later. So now finally to the fun part, the fabrics. There are so many kinds of fabrics in the thrift store. You have old bed sheets, you have curtains, you have like yards of fabric, just random yards of fabric. You'll have old t-shirts or dresses, things you can upcycle. There are so many possibilities, it's just endless. And it's really good to give you an insight in what you can make with the things you can buy, because every fabric has its own use. And you know, I can imagine you see a curtain with a beautiful motif and be like, but what can I make with a curtain? Honestly, I really love using curtains. This was an old curtain as well that I thrifted, and I think curtains like these, I'm just going to show you a few examples. This is one of an old curtain that I really love and still have to use. It's really long as well, so lots of, I think it's like 2 meters. A very 70s, very retro. Oh. And here is another old curtain with kind of tulip pattern that I really love. These things are perfect for example, jackets, outside jackets that you can wear. Of course, dungarees like I'm wearing right now. Perfect for that, and so much fun to make. I get so many compliments on these, so much fun. You can make like a boiler suit out of these, or just pants, or shorts, dungaree shorts. Honestly, the possibility is endless. I really love using curtains, and I feel like they're not used enough in thrifting and sewing. So I would really recommend looking at these curtains. I think tote bags are perfect as well for these kind of things. Another kind of fabric you can buy is, of course, all bed sheets. I feel they are kind of gross, so I don't really buy them on often. If I do, I make sure they look brand new, because, you know, personally, you can wash them really hot, but someone has been sleeping underneath it, you know, fornicating, that kind of thing. Like, no thank you. But they are great for mock-ups, because most of the time they are made of cotton. Cotton is like a perfect fabric to start with. You can make dresses out of cotton, t-shirts, pants, basically everything. Tote bags, you know, pencil cases, whatever you like. I think cotton is one of my favorite fabrics to use. So definitely look into bed sheets. If it doesn't gross you out. If it does, you can always use it for mock-up. If you're lucky enough, sometimes thrift stores have just random yards of fabric. Mine does. I have several that I visit. But don't be put off if it's just a small amount of fabric. If you really love the print, just go for it, because you can make so many things with just a small amount of fabric. I just recently thrifted this one, and I think it's around 1 meter of fabric. But it's really beautiful. I really love the colors. I mean, of course, 1 meter is not nearly enough to make something, but you can make like a tank top, or maybe a bum bag that I've made before, pencil cases, quilting, you can use it for quilting, or vests. Perfect for vests as well. It's enough for that. So there's so many things you can do with just a tiny amount of fabric. So if you see something that you really love, but you think like it's not enough, please take it. You can always make something with it. This is a bum bag that I made. I think you need like 50 centimeters of fabric for this. A pencil case with this one. Really fun to make. I love making pencil cases. So satisfying. Also, zipper is also thrifted. So those are my tips for looking at fabrics. Keep an open mind. Just don't think you need like a fancy fabric to make a dress. You can make a dress out of a bedsheet, and you can make pants out of curtains. I think they're really great curtains. So that's my my number one. Another big thrifting thing is, of course, upcycling. I have to admit, I don't really do that much. I just find more pleasure out of making something from scratch. But I have recently, just this week, thrifted something. I recently thrifted this little mini skirt that I obviously don't fit into, but I do really love the embroidery, and I've always wanted to have like an embroidered vest. So I'm gonna make a vest out of this. I'm gonna use some other fabric for the back because I do not have enough of that, but this is a perfect project that you can use for upcycling. I do feel like with thrifting fabrics and supplies for sewing, it really demands an open mind, and you have to train that creativity, I guess, to see something into a piece of curtain or some sort of random fabric. But you'll get there. And that's another big tip I want to give you. That is, don't just go once a month. If you really want to find something special, you'll need to go every week to the same stores, because, you know, unlike normal stores, thrift stores have something different every day. I truly believe the secret to thrifting is to just go a lot, and then you'll find many things. I have so many times have not found anything, but I have also found a lot of fabrics, and that is just because I go often. So yeah, that would be my number one tip, to just have patience and don't expect to find the most amazing fabrics the first time. Just go regularly and make it a routine, I guess. You can also find cheap patterns at the thrift store, like vintage patterns, but also old magazines, like sewing magazines with patterns inside. I think these are great as well. They are sometimes a little bit more modern. If you don't really have found a pattern but really want to start sewing, I would recommend sites like the Fabrics store and I think Peppermint magazine. They have a lot of free patterns. I think that's a great way to start sewing cheaply and find out if it's really something you want to do. And most of all, my personal reason to thrift all my stuff is just more ethical I find it really unnecessary to buy even more expensive fabrics while we already have so much that it's produced and about to be thrown away. So I think it would be best if we would just be a little bit less wasteful. So this was my TED talk about thrifting.